Hello and welcome to Rise and Unwind. My name is Dan. You know, each and every week I try to talk to people from across the country about things you can do right here in your neighborhood. And on this week's show, we got this.
You know, your loved one leaves one day for a deployment and comes back, and they come back a little different of a person. So you start to kind of wonder why. You know, there's some physical differences. Obviously, those are the easy ones to spot, but the emotional ones, the mental ones are the ones that you don't really understand.
The inspiration came from me actually having a run-in in my own neighborhood where a bear would repeatedly break into my trash and recycling, and one time came in and clearly showed a preference for alcohol.
How do we even know when a child is ready for their first phone or tablet, and how do we know it's time?
I get this all the time.
But what styles are in right now that probably wouldn't drive parents crazy in the mornings?
Shorter sides for the boys. They like a little bit of length up top, a lot of texture.
All of that and more right here on Rise and Unwind. We always talk about being strong, but what if real strength is knowing when to ask for help? Ahead of football season, the NFL and Wounded Warrior Project are teaming up to highlight something that affects way more people than you might actually realize: mental health. Joining us are Atlanta Falcons defensive end Morgan Fox and his father, Joe Fox, an Army veteran and mental health advocate with the WWP. Welcome to the show, you two. How are you?
Doing good. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, doing awesome. Thanks for having us. Excited to be here.
All right, Joe, what do you see as the biggest mental health challenges for veterans just trying to adjust back to civilian life?
Yeah, I think veterans deal with challenges in their own way and their own type. But a lot of those challenges look very similar. So you see a lot of post-traumatic stress disorder, some anxiety, some depression, people with loss of identity, loss of purpose, and ultimately people that end up alone or isolated or self-isolating. And these are a lot of the challenges that are invisible that warriors are dealing with on a day-to-day basis.
And Morgan, what was it like growing up in a military family, and how do you see those challenges play out personally?
Growing up with it, you know, your loved one leaves one day for a deployment and comes back, and they come back a little different of a person. So you start to kind of wonder why. You know, there's some physical differences. Obviously, those are the easy ones to spot, but the emotional ones, the mental ones are the ones that you don't really understand. You don't understand why you can't wake someone up when they're asleep unexpectedly. You can't bang on doors or, you know, sneak up on them and try to have a surprise wrestling match when you're a kid, because those things might trigger something that you know your loved one's dealing with, and that's something growing up that you don't really understand going forward. And you know, luckily you get a little bit older and you ask the right questions and you see your loved one go get help, and you can really see a positive change after that.
And Joe, for those who don't know, what exactly is the Wounded Warrior Project doing to help vets with mental wellness?
Yeah, so Wounded Warrior Project's mission is simply to honor and empower our veterans of our nation's history here, specifically post 9/11 veterans. Through mental health programming, Wounded Warrior Project is offering opportunities for warriors to improve their resilience and psychological well-being. One of those programs is Project Odyssey. Project Odyssey is a 12-week program that is launched by a 5-day in-person workshop that helps improve your psychological well-being and your mental health and your resiliency. They do this through providing positive coping skills that will allow you to take whatever issues or anxieties that you're dealing with and be able to help take those, put a mindfulness spin to it, or perhaps give you a new tool or a new technique to be able to help you move forward with life and allow you to see what a new normal can look like.
And how is the NFL part of this? And can you walk us through the WWP and the NFL connection?
Yeah, so Wounded Warrior Project is lucky to have a partner like the NFL. The NFL has the ability to reach so many people and to bring awareness to the mental health issues that warriors are struggling with. But also through their program of Salute to Service, the NFL's partnered with us to allow players like Morgan to be able to really get involved themselves and find ways to reach out to his local community and to his local veterans and be able to provide support and get them moving to Wounded Warrior Project to be able to help them with their mental health issues.
And Morgan, you recently took part in a WWP event. What stuck with you from that experience?
Yeah, it was incredible being able to be a part of Project Odyssey. for the first 5 days was a blast. It was awesome to have these veterans come in from different parts of the country and come in with their own issues, own, things, situations they're dealing with, and then learn to cope with it with each other, learn to ask for help, learn to have these mindfulness skills and breathing skills, and then take them back out into the real world to get themselves out of the hole that, we all end up finding ourselves in one day mentally, whether you have a bad day or not. So those are skills that I took, the breathing and the mindfulness back to work. It's the, whether you have a great day of practice or a bad game or, a great game, you got to be able to kind of breathe yourself back into being calm and back into normalcy a little bit.
And as a pro athlete, what message do you think men, vets or not, need to hear when it comes to mental health?
I just think that men need to go ask for help. And I know it sounds so simple and it's never as easy as it is. I think that's the hardest step, even though it's the simplest, is go ask for help. Go have that 10 to 15 minute conversation with a friend or a professional, a loved one that'll help you identify what's going on, or even just that you do need to go seek help. I think that we grow up and we live in this society that says we as men need to shoulder this burden alone, and that we just need to deal with it or suck it up, and that's not the truth. I think that there's a lot of power in words and a lot of power in talking your peers. So I think the biggest message I have is just take that first step and go talk to someone.
And if someone is watching that is a veteran or has a veteran in their life that might be struggling, what is the first step they should be taking?
I would direct them right to the internet over to woundedwarriorproject.org. They're going to be able to find all the resources they need to be able to help them with whatever struggle that they're going through. And if it's something more immediate or somebody is in crisis, please call the crisis hotline number at 988.
I want to thank you, too, for joining me this morning.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us. It's been a blast.
Ever feel like you're constantly putting out digital fires for your kids and your parents while barely keeping your own online life in check? A new survey from Cox Mobile says so-called sandwich generation, those juggling care for kids and aging parents, is carrying most of the stress around online safety. So joining us today is Elizabeth Miller, certified caregiving consultant and founder of Happy Healthy Caregiver, to show how caregivers can ease that stress and take back a little bit of that peace of mind. Welcome to the show, Elizabeth. How are you?
Thanks for having me.
So, okay, sandwich generation, why do you think they feel so overwhelmed by digital safety concerns right now?
Well, a sandwich generation caregiver is under a lot of pressure. And when it comes to online and digital safety, they are juggling it for themselves and for their family members. And in this Cox Mobile survey, 86% said this was a top concern for them, and 30% said that they are definitely feeling the stress and overwhelm. Makes sense to me because on one hand, for aging parents, they're worried about identity theft and privacy violations. And then on the other hand, for their children and their teenagers, they're worried about cyberbullying and online predators. And then we're stuck in the middle, right? We've got to figure out how to also mitigate that for ourselves, because we're spending 5 or more hours online. So it's a lot. There's a lot coming at the sandwich generation caregiver.
I've really never thought of it that way. Yet you've got a unique perspective. Are there any way safety worries that show up pretty much across all generations in a family?
Yes. The survey also did show this as well, that a third of seniors, a third of the sandwich generation, and a fifth of teenagers have experienced some kind of or disinformation online. And while they didn't really say this was a top concern, we know that generative AI is becoming more prevalently used on a day-to-day basis. Teenagers that took the survey said that they have used generative AI, they use it on a regular basis. So this is something that all 3 generations need to be conscious of, that generative AI, one of the risks of the output is that this mis or disinformation can exist.
And what simple steps can caregivers take to lower the stress around online threats and maybe even some of that tech overload?
Yeah, less stress, please, for sure. We all need that. We can certainly do, only click on links from trusted URLs. We can set strong passwords. We can do some fact checking for some of these online claims that we're seeing. And I think we can do some other things too. We can check with our internet provider, our device manufacturer, to see what kind of safety and security features they've already built into their product. And these could be things like malicious activity monitoring, parental controls, elder-friendly modes, and even some remote monitoring. So when you're running some of these things in the background, that's going to add this extra layer of protection, and it's certainly going to offer us more peace of mind.
So what does being proactive look like when it comes to keeping your family safe online?
Well, I was relieved to see some good news there in the survey too, is that families are already having conversations about online and digital safety. And so let's keep continuing to do that. Let's have honest and open conversations, maybe as a sandwich generation caregiver ourselves, sharing some real life examples to help prompt some of these conversations to happen with our aging parents and our teenagers. And to further the impact of the survey, Cox Mobile teamed up with Common Sense Media, and they did create some great resources to help facilitate these conversations and educate us about digital and online safety.
So where can they go for some of these resources and maybe even get some more information?
Yeah, they can go and check out more information about the survey results, as well as get these resources to help us proactively have these conversations at coxmobilesafety.com.
Elizabeth Miller, thanks for joining us this morning.
Thanks for having me.
Back to school season is officially sneaking up on us, which means earlier mornings, longer to-do lists, and yes, the dreaded haircut appointments. Well, what if we can make one thing on that list maybe a little easier? So joining us today with some time-saving tips and haircut help for family is great clip stylist Tony Kakura. Welcome to the show, Tony. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me. How are you?
I'm doing I'm doing the best I can. That's how I am. And honestly, let's be real. Why does back to school season always feel like such a chaos for parents?
Well, you have so much else going on. I mean, you're still trying to get the work schedules done, running a household, sports startup, and you still have to shop for materials and supplies. So we're here to make that transition a little bit more seamless into the season.
And, a haircut could tend to be like a big deal for kids. It's a weird question to ask, but what styles are in right now that probably wouldn't drive parents crazy in the mornings?
Shorter sides for the boys. They like a little bit of length up top, a lot of texture. So you see a lot of that choppiness in the hair. For girls, we see the longer lengths, of course, some longer layers. So there is a little bit of dimension and movement to the hair, but nothing that they have to really worry about styling and fighting with.
I'm the same way. That's what I need. Are there any go-to products that you recommend that you can help those fresh cuts like stay fresh longer?
Yeah, for sure. Boys use gel, especially with the younger boys. So as soon as it's done in the bathroom, you don't have to worry about it moving through the rest of the day. Little girls, even older girls, leave-in conditioner to help sort out and smooth out some of that bedhead from sleeping in.
And what are some of your pro tips to getting in and out of the salon without turning it into a full day ordeal?
Utilize Great Clip's online check-in. It allows you, whether on the app or on the website, to see how many people are ahead of you, roughly how long the wait is, and you can check in as many kids as you need to and show up when it's your turn. Easy as that.
All right, my biggest pet peeve are those little clippings in the back of my shirt. What I recommend for anybody that hates those things is grab a lint roller, take it with you when you go get your haircut, just have it ready after you're done, and those will disappear, especially if you have to go to work back after a haircut or something like that. My little tip for the day, okay? I heard something about a chief back-to-school officer. What's that all about, and how can families get involved?
So the Chief Back-to-School Officer promotion is allowing Great Clips to reach out and have parents nominate one of their kids that may have really stepped up to the plate this chaotic season. So a child that may have helped them shop or stepped up to make sure they checked in online with our app. However that may work, parents nominate their kids for up to $10,000 in their education and free haircuts. All of that information is at greatclips.com/back-to-school.
Tony, thanks for joining me this morning.
Thanks for having me.
Do you ever feel like you're constantly negotiating screen time with your kids and losing? You're not alone. More and more parents are trying to figure out when kids should get a device, how to keep tech from taking over the house, and how to get them a little bit of screen time because sometimes they deserve a little bit. That's where the National PTA comes in. They've got free tools to help families build better digital habits. So joining us today is Mickey Wilson, PTA Connected Ambassador for National PTA, here to share what's working for families and how to get your local PTA and how they can get involved. Welcome, Mickey. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me, Dan.
All right, let's start with something pretty much every parent kind of deals with. How can families talk with their kids about social media, online safety in a real and not scary way?
Very important. I would encourage them to have open, supportive, and ongoing conversations. So, this is going to be more than just one conversation. We need to be talking through them through the ages and stages. And the best way to approach those conversations are to have positive, proactive, and practical conversations. Positive is important because we see that fear and shaming our children about online or tech use, right? That doesn't work. It's not going to change their behavior. We want to be proactive and have the conversations as early as possible because we don't want to wait until the bad thing happens or some negative experiences happen to start this conversation, because then that makes us reactive and we feel like we've waited too long and we didn't do enough, right? So we want to keep parents out of that. Those feelings. And then practical is very important because we need to meet families where they're at. There really is not a one size fits all solution for this topic, for this conversation, for navigating the online. So we know that parents know what's best for their children. So what we advocate is that you have many conversations with your children, make them part of the process, and keep it supportive and positive in the process.
And you're the ambassador for PTA Connected. Can you tell us what that is and what kind of free resources that it includes?
Absolutely. So the PTA Connected initiative, we have helped hundreds of thousands of families really navigate the digital world more thoughtfully and more safely. And the way that we've done that is we have designed and have programs available that we've worked with supporters and collaborators on. But those programs are really designed to educate, to empower, and to engage families so they feel comfortable about having the conversation. And again, we're meeting them where they're at. The whole goal when parents and caregivers and families engage in any one program is that they're walking away having learned something. So when we provide the information, the knowledge that they need, and the resources that they can use, we find that parents and caregivers are really establishing and modeling online positive behavior and safe, healthy habits. And we know that our children look at everything that we do, right? So through that role modeling, we're also teaching them how to use our apps, our devices safely. So it starts with a conversation. We pair it up with these resources through the PTA Connected programs, and that allows parents to make the best decisions for their children and their households.
How do we even know when a child is ready for their first phone or tablet, and how do we know it's time?
I get this all the time. And I don't know that we ever really know when they're exactly ready. There's not really one age, right? There's not one way to know. So the best way for parents to know if their individual children are ready is to have the conversations with them. Ask them why they want to be on the apps. Why do they feel they need the device, right? And then with that conversation, again, depending on which age or stage your child's in, we have those programs and resources that allow you to continue the conversation in a productive way. So, for example, we have a 3T method when it comes to online safety. We encourage parents to talk to their children about the apps, about the games, about the devices that they want to use. We encourage them to try these things together, right? Because now they're learning together and they're building on that conversation. And then when it comes to teaching, well, when our children are engaged and we have them, that opens the door to teach them about these features that continue to protect them. So whether it is about security in general, general, privacy settings, controls that limit screen time for those healthy habits. That 3T approach is a way to continue the conversation productively and really be in it with your child, because they are digital natives, but a lot of us need to learn how to be digital parents, right? Not all of us grew up with so much technology.
For some of these programs, how can the local PTAs bring this into their own schools or communities?
The best way to do it is to visit pta.org/connected. On our website, we have all kinds of information about our PTA Connected initiative, but you will also have access to all of our programs and resources, and they are completely free. So visit pta.org/connected. And if you're a local PTA, please know that we work with our supporters and our collaborators to get grant funding so that you can take these free programs and really elevate them into an event or an experience that really engages your families, your school community, and brings everyone together so we can figure out a way through this together going forward.
Mickey Wilson, thanks for joining me this morning and giving us all that info and keeping our kids safe with technology and all that other good stuff.
Thank you so much, Dan.
Meth gators, drunk bears, and a herd of cocaine hippos. No, that's not your local karaoke bar or a rejected sci-fi script. It's real life. Wildlife biologist and adventurer Forrest Galante is exposing a bizarre way that humans' vices are wreaking havoc on the animal kingdom. In his new Discovery Channel series, Animals on Drugs, he digs into how these creatures got hooked, what it means for their ecosystems, and hopefully they could go into rehab. So Forrest joins us now. How can you help? Welcome to the show, Forrest. How are you, my friend?
Yeah, I'm really well, Dan. Thanks for having me. Heck of an intro.
All right. Well, when people hear Animals on Drugs, they think it's a joke, and yeah, I made a few jokes out of that. But this is actually a very real and serious problem. What inspired you to tackle this story?
Yeah, great question. It is loud, it is salacious, but it is also a very timely and real problem. You know, the inspiration came from me actually having a run-in my own neighborhood where a bear would repeatedly break into my trash and recycling, and one time came in and clearly showed a preference for alcohol. This set me on a whole path of research that ended up me discovering that human substances are having these negative consequences on animals and their ecosystems the world over, whether that's the illicit drug trade of cocaine with Pablo Escobar bringing hippos in that are literally killing people and destroying habitat, or meth and ED drugs and things like that getting flushed down toilets in Florida that are leading to quite literal meth gators. It's having really large negative side effects on the animals. And my entire goal in life is to mitigate human-wildlife conflict. And this is a really large conflict that is, for the most part, going unspoken.
So you're saying some of these animals are actually seeking out the drugs and vices for themselves?
The only ones that we encountered that were generally seeking it out, and if you think about it, they have an instinctual drive to do so, were the bears. Now, with the advent of all of these new really sugary alcoholic drinks, whether that's alcoholic kombucha or ciders or the White Claws and seltzers of the world, those animals are hardwired to seek sugar to put on weight, those animals being bears, during the spring and summer to get ready for the winter. So they are genuinely going for alcohol. In the case of cocaine hippos, they're just a side effect of the cocaine industry. And when it comes to meth gators, they are really bioaccumulating methamphetamines from the waterways into the smaller fish, into the larger fish, that by the time they get into the alligators are having really high potency effects. So it's very case by case basis. For the most part, they're not seeking it out, but they are being exposed to it with or without their own choice.
Beyond the stories, what's the bigger message here? What do you think viewers could walk away with, like understanding the relationship between humans and wildlife?
The biggest message here, Dan, is that everything's connected, and everything we do, whether that's, literally taking Viagra to have a good night and then peeing in the toilet, which ends up in our waterways, which ends up literally stopping reproduction in certain animals. It's all connected. The ecosystem, the planet is all connected one way or another. And understanding that if we make better choices and are a little bit more responsible in how we discard things and how we manage getting rid of our own vices, then we can have a healthier planet, a better ecosystem if we just make those choices, because it does affect creatures that don't have a say in it.
All right, you're also part of Alien Sharks Death Down Under. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, again, it's a loud, salacious, silly title, but it's a really cool show and tell of sharks that don't get the spotlight very frequently. In that show, I believe we have 17 different species of elasmobranch. We look at some of the only venomous sharks in the world and even test the potency of that venom on the human system, which hasn't been tested before. So it's a really cool show. If you missed it on Discovery Channel, you can catch up on Discovery Plus or HBO Max. We've got other Shark Weeks, Animals on Drugs, anything to do with conservation and wildlife. I'm all about it, and I'm trying to put it out there for people to love.
Venomous sharks, animals on drugs. You have a very interesting career following all this stuff, man.
I do indeed. I'm very lucky. I get to follow my passion every day, which is to communicate wildlife conservation and science. And I just am so glad to hear when people fall in love with animals because of it.
Check out Animals on Drugs, Monday, July 28th at 8 p.m. Eastern and Pacific on Discovery Channel. And keep an eye out for Forrest and Alien Sharks Death Down Under and Florida's Death Beach, both airing during Shark Week. For more info, visit discovery.com or follow them on social media at Discovery. Hey, Forrest, thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
And that is it for Rise Unwind. I want to thank you for tuning in, checking out the show. If you actually want to be on the show, go to our website, riseunwindtv.com. Send us an email, fill out the form, and maybe you could be on a future episode. If you like the show and want to follow us on YouTube, that's at Rise Unwind TV. Make sure you like, you comment, you subscribe. All of the same things that YouTubers say over and over again. That helps us. So please help us out just a little bit. And until next week, that was Rise and Unwind.